Members of the Siaya County Assembly have now threatened to initiate impeachment proceedings against Governor James Orengo, citing failure to implement development projects despite approved budgets in the current financial year. The warning from members of the County Assembly marks a significant escalation in tensions between the legislative arm and the county executive. At the center of the dispute is what MCAs describe as a widespread failure to deliver development across multiple wards, and they say that despite funds being approved, little to no progress has been seen on the ground, and the concerns were formally raised on the floor of the assembly by Central Game Ward MCA Silas Madingu. He pointed to delays in procurement processes as a major issue. And according to the MCA, many of the projects approved in the county budget have not improved or rather have not moved beyond the planning stage. He indicated that procurement, which is a critical step in project implementation, has not been completed for a large number of projects. This, he said, is happening even as the financial year approaches its final weeks. The MCA further noted that there have been prior agreements between the Assembly and the Executive, and these agreements included timelines to ensure that projects would be tendered by January 2026. However, that timeline was not met, and as a result, many projects are now at risk of not being implemented at all within the current financial year. And for the residents across the Siaya County, the situation is beginning to have visible effects. In several wards, there are no signs of ongoing development activity. Projects were expected to improve roads, expand water access, and also support early childhood education remain incomplete or have not started. These delays are not only affecting infrastructure, they are also affecting trust between elected leaders and also the people they represent. MCAs say they are facing increasing pressure from constituents who are questioning the lack of progress, and many residents are now demanding answers on why projects that were publicly announced have not been delivered. The issue has also taken on a political dimension. Some MCAs believe that the delays could weaken their standing with voters, and they argue that without visible development, it becomes difficult to demonstrate the impact of their leadership. This concern has added urgency to calls for accountability, and in response to the growing tension, Siaya County Assembly Speaker George Okode has intervened. The speaker has directed the county executive to formally respond to the concerns raised, and he has emphasized the importance of accountability in governance. He has also made it clear that the Assembly will not ignore issues related to service delivery, and the directive signals that the Assembly is prepared to take further an action if satisfactory explanations are not provided. At the same time, the Assembly has resolved to summon key county officials, and these include chief officers and also procurement directors. The officials are expected to appear before the Assembly and explain the delays. They will also be required to provide clear timelines for project implementation. This move is aimed at establishing facts and ensuring transparency. It also reflects the Assembly oversight role in the county governance. Beyond the assembly chambers, the issue of resonating across the country, and residents who had hoped for improved services are now facing uncertainty. In rural areas, delayed road projects continue to affect movement and access to markets. Water projects that were expected to ease shortages remain stalled. Early childhood development centers that were planned to support education have not been completed, and each of these delays has a direct impact on daily life. They affect how people work, how children learn, and how communities grow. And the situation has now attracted attention from leaders outside the county assembly. Governor James Orengo, who has in recent months been vocal on national issues, is now facing criticism closer to home. His position as the prominent political figure has added weight to the unfolding developments. Some leaders within his broader political circle have also expressed the concerns. Among them is the Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi, who has previously raised issues related to governance and also accountability. This internal criticism adds another layer to the situation. It reflects that the concerns are not limited to the assembly alone. However, not all leaders supported the move towards the impeachment. Alegu Usenga, Member of Parliament Samuel Atandi, has taken a different position. He has urged MCS to reconsider the impeachment push, and the MP argues that decision on the governor's leadership should be left to voters in the external general election. He has also cautioned against shifting focus away from service delivery. According to him, the priority should remain on addressing the needs of residents, and this perspective highlights its broader debate on how accountability should be pursued. On the other hand, there are calls for immediate action through institutional processes, and on the other hand, there is a view that political accountability should be determined at the ballot. For now, the Assembly appears to be taking a measured approach, and the decision to first seek explanations from the executive indicates the impeachment is not yet a final step. Instead, it remains a possibility depending on the responses they received, and this approach allows for due process. It also provides an opportunity for the executive to address the concerns raised. The coming days will be critical. They will determine whether the situation can be resolved, whether dialogue and corrective action, or whether it will escalate into a formal impeachment process. For residents of Siaya County, the outcome matters greatly. At the heart of this issue is not just political rivalry. It is about service delivery. It is about whether promised projects are completed, and it is not whether public resources are used effectively. And it is not about whether leadership meets the expectations of the people. As the financial year draws to a close, the urgency is clear. There is limited time to there is also limited time to restore confidence among residents, and the Assembly's actions in the coming weeks will be closely watched. So too, with the response from the counter executive. Together, these developments will shape the next phase of governance in Siaya County. They will also send a signal about accountability is enforced at the county level. For many observers, this situation reflects broader challenges in developed governments. Balancing planning, procurement, and implementation requires coordination and efficiency. When one part of the process slows down, the entire system is affected, and this is why timely action is needed. And why oversight mechanisms such as this or those exercised by the Assembly play a critical role, and as the process unfolds, the focus remains on facts, on timelines, and on outcomes, because at the end, what matters most is the delivery of projects, delivery of services, and delivery of promises made to the people. In Siaya, the question now is simple. Can accountability restore progress, or will the crisis deepen as time runs out of delivery? That is a question, and kindly, if you are new here, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing our content.